My brother went missing 10 years ago, but I think I found him. It was a typical Friday night. Me, M14, and my brother Mark, M16, were sprawled out on the sofa, indulging in our usual ritual of diving down the YouTube rabbit hole. We wouldn't usually find anything of note, just a few weird videos, but there was this one time we came across that video of a mannequin singing "I Feel Fantastic." That was the creepiest thing we had found, until today. As usual, we hadn't found anything, but finally, a video caught our attention. The video was called Faces of Fear and it was uploaded by a channel called Twisted Trials TV. We thought it was an old game show uploading its videos onto YouTube, but our curiosity was piqued. We loaded up the channel page to see how many videos they had, but there was only one video. We couldn't help but notice the channel's banner. It was a disturbing collage of twisted faces and eerie symbols. It sent chills down my spine. "Come on, let's watch the video," my brother Mark said. I replied with a simple okay. Mark loves creepy things, he always has. His favorite movies growing up were A Nightmare on Elm Street and Creepshow. I was never into them, but I would watch them just to spend time with my brother. We clicked on the video and it began innocently enough. There was this little jingle showing the title of the show, Twisted Trials. I relaxed a bit, thinking this wasn't going to be creepy, but once the video showed the studio, I knew I was wrong. The video showed a dimly lit studio flickering to life. The host emerged, a figure shrouded in darkness, his face obscured by shadows. His voice, a haunting blend of gravel and malice, sent shivers down my spine as he introduced the night's twisted game show. "Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Have you missed us? Well, we sure missed you," the game show host said. I looked at Mark, hoping he was as disturbed as I was, but it looked like he was enjoying it. "Mark, can we turn it off?" I said shakily. "What? Why?" "It's just getting good," Mark said with a hint of annoyance on his face. I turned my attention back to the screen as the host was introducing the contestants. Both me and Mark were disgusted with what we saw, a motley crew of individuals with disfigured faces and haunted eyes. Some had gnarled scars crisscrossing their skin, while others sported grotesque deformities that seemed to defy logic. Just as I was about to beg my brother to switch it off, the host caught my attention. His face was a patchwork of scars and burns, twisted into a permanent smile that seemed to mock the very concept of humanity. His eyes burned with a malevolent gleam, as if he held the secrets of the universe within his twisted form. As the episode progressed, the challenges became increasingly grisly, pushing the deformed contestants to their limits in a bid for twisted glory. From eating contests to psychological mind games, each trial seemed designed to break the contestants' spirits and expose the darkest corners of their souls. As I sat there in horror, my brother, Mark, was loving every second of it. "You don't actually believe this is real, do you?" Mark said condescendingly. I didn't respond, I was too disturbed by what I was watching. But what disturbed me the most was the host himself. His disfigurement seemed almost too real, and his voice echoed in the studio. The game show was finally coming to an end, and the host was back on screen. "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this fantastic episode. But most importantly, what did you think, Mark the Creep?" the host said, looking at the camera with a big smile. Me and Mark froze. Mark the Creep was my brother's YouTube channel name. How did he know the name? How did he know we were watching? Just like that, the video ended, but as it did, YouTube crashed. We closed the page and went about the rest of our night as if it never happened. Days passed. Me and Mark never spoke about it, until one night. Mark had let his curiosity get the better of him. He had found the YouTube channel again, and there was a second video. He quickly showed me, it was uploaded 30 minutes ago. Mark begged me to watch it with him, and I reluctantly did. The video started the exact same way as the first one, a little jingle and the same title of the show, Twisted Trials. The host emerged again, that deformed face and smile sending a chill down my spine. "Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Have you missed us? Well, we sure missed you," the game show host said again. But instead of introducing the contestants, the host stared at the camera for a few seconds. He didn't even blink. Finally, he started speaking again. "We'd like to thank our special viewer." Mark and I were confused, this didn't happen in the last episode. But before we could say anything to each other, the host said, "Everyone, give a round of applause to Mark Fernsby. That's my brother's full name. How did he know it? And how did he know we were watching? I looked over to my brother, who was as pale as a ghost. I had never seen him afraid before, and if this was scaring him, then we needed to turn it off. I closed the page and turned off the computer. I told him, "Promise me, Mark, you will never watch another video from that YouTube channel." Mark had a glazed look in his eyes, and he was still pale. He didn't say anything for a few seconds. I grabbed him and shook him. "Mark, promise me you won't watch another video," I shouted, barely holding back tears. Mark nodded slowly. "Okay. I promise I won't," he said shakily. 6 months passed, and I had almost forgotten about those videos and that YouTube channel. I was ready to leave it all behind me, but I noticed Mark was acting different. We hadn't dived down the YouTube rabbit hole in a few days, but I knew he was doing it on his own. He spent his evenings locked in his room, and I could hear sounds coming from there, but I didn't take notice of it. Then, one fateful night, I heard Mark scream from his room. I took notice because, like I said before, Mark doesn't get scared easily. I rushed to his bedroom, but his door was locked. I listened carefully, trying to hear Mark, but all I heard was a familiar voice. It took me a second to recognize it, but then I remembered, it was the same haunting blend of gravel and malice. Mark had watched another episode of Twisted Trials. I banged on the door, begging for Mark to let me in. I heard a thump inside his room. I thought it was my brother going to open the door, so I stopped and listened for a moment. I heard the host faintly say, "Thank you for watching, and thank you, Mark." Mark's room went silent. I started banging on his door again, screaming his name. "Mark! Mark, please open the door. Please." Suddenly, his door unlocked. I barged in, expecting to see Mark, but the room was empty. I could see his computer still on. I walked over and saw a crashed YouTube page. I sat in the chair and cried for hours. My parents called the police and reported him missing. The police searched the room, but there was no trace of him. They also questioned me, and I told them about the YouTube channel, but they didn't believe me. A few days after Mark went missing, I tried to show my friends the YouTube channel, but nothing came up. It's like the YouTube channel and all the videos never existed. They must have thought I was crazy. Eventually, I got on with my life. I finished school, went to university to study media production, and even graduated. I met the love of my life, and we are expecting our first son, whom we will be naming Mark in tribute to my brother. One night, I decided to dive down the YouTube rabbit hole, something I hadn't done since Mark vanished. I found many old videos me and Mark had watched. I laughed at how ridiculous they were. I couldn't believe I was scared of them. But then I saw something that gave me goosebumps, a YouTube channel called Twisted Trials TV. That name taunted me from the screen, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. With trembling hands, I clicked on the only video the channel had, half expecting to see the same twisted host and his grotesque contestants. But as the screen flickered to life, I froze in shock. The host looked different. His face was still deformed, with a patchwork of scars and burns and still a permanent smile. But his eyes, they weren't as gaunt. I felt like I recognized the host. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was Mark. Tears blurred my vision, and once he spoke, I knew for sure. "Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Have you missed us?" "Well, we sure missed you," the host said. That was Mark's voice. It was lower and more mature, but behind the gravelly sound, it was definitely Mark. I watched as Mark guided the contestants through the challenges with the same enjoyment on his face he had all those years ago. I watched to the very end of the show. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this fantastic episode. But most importantly, what did you think, Thomas Fernsby? Mark said, looking at the camera with a big smile. I went pale, a chill ran down my spine, and the YouTube page crashed as the video ended. In the chilling silence that followed, I was left alone in the darkness, the screen of my laptop casting an eerie glow across the room. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the truth. I had stumbled into the clutches of the Twisted Game show, and there was no escape. As I stared into the abyss of the screen, I felt a cold presence creeping over me, tendrils of darkness reaching out to ensnare my soul. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized that I was being drawn into the same nightmare that had claimed my brother. As I sat there, I heard a voice from my laptop. "Save yourself," it whispered, a faint glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. "Find me. With those words ringing in my ears, I was determined to uncover the truth behind the sinister facade and rescue my brother. I loaded the channel back up, and to my horror, there was a second video titled Twisted Trials, Brotherly Reunion. I clicked on the video, but instead of the jingle and the title, I was met with a black screen. There was silence for a few seconds, but then I started hearing screams. Twisted faces of the contestants appeared on screen. The screams got louder and louder. I was overwhelmed by it all. But after what felt like hours, the screams stopped. The screen faded to black. I couldn't shake the feeling that the true horror had only just begun.